Florida's black bear, from recovery to controversy. Today we're getting into the rise and fall and rise again of Florida's black bear. Let's get into it. So at the most recent commission hearing for FWC, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, the upcoming black bear hunt was back on the agenda. So the last black bear hunt that we had here in Florida was back in 2015, which sparked great controversy amongst residents of the state. And here we are, fast forward 10 years, 2025, and we have another black bear hunt proposal on the agenda. And it did pass this first round. So this isn't the final say, but they will have one more meeting to kind of finalize this and before this becomes law for the next hunting season. So let's get into the details. Historical context. In the early 1900s, Florida black bear population was estimated to be around 11,000. By the 1970s, due to habitat loss and unregulated hunting, the numbers plummeted to approximately 300 to 500 bears. So 11,000 all the way down to 300 to 500. Conservation efforts, including habitat protection and hunting bans, led to a large rebound. By 2015, the population was estimated at over 4,000. So from all the way from the brink down at 300, rebounded nicely all the way up to over 4,000. The current status, according to the FWC estimates, puts the black bear population staying robust with significant growth in several subpopulations. Despite the recovery, bears now occupy only about 45% of their historic range, primarily due to ongoing development, which we talk about a lot here in the Same Old podcast, and habitat fragmentation. So we keep dodging these development bullets one by one, but we're also losing plenty of them. And the black bear is suffering those defeats just like anything else. So 2015, let's talk about the hunt that took place about a decade ago. This was a pretty controversial chapter in the history of our state and FWC. So in October of 2015, Florida held its first black bear hunt in over 2 decades, aiming to manage the bear population. The hunt was scheduled to last a week, but was halted after only 2 days when 304 bears were killed, nearing the quota of 320. So they were chasing about 320 bears to be killed according to the 2015 hunt. And when they hit 304, they terminated the remainder of the hunt. So they pretty much hit their quota. Controversies surrounding that. Reports were indicated that among the bears killed were lactating females and potentially cubs. So that's something that we're going to see a slight tweak in this 2025 proposal. So those allegations were raising ethical and conservation concerns for additional hunts, which we're obviously hearing about now in 2025. So the aftermath of that, in response to all the backlash that they got from those things, they meaning FWC, postponed subsequent hunts, and the black bear remained off the hunting list until recent developments here in 2025. So let's get into this deja vu of circling back to the hunt. So in May of 2025, the FWC approved a new black bear hunt scheduled allegedly for December 6th through the 28th, marking the first since 2015. A total of 187 permits will be issued via a lottery system with restrictions in place to prevent the killing of cubs and females with cubs. So that's a new little tweak. The public response, the decision to approve this first round of voting anyway, has reignited debates, and over 75% of the public comments were opposing the hunt at that commission hearing. So lots of outcry at the hearing. 75% of those comments were opposing the hunt. Now, that's not a statistic based on a generic survey across Floridians, so keep that in mind. Critics are arguing that non-lethal methods, such as public education, securing garbage, should be prioritized to mitigate human-bear conflicts. That's one of the reasons that the FWC is advocating for a bear hunt, is that bear-human interactions are at an all-time high, and I guess the calls that they're getting to complain about bear issues are also at an all-time high. And so how do we manage the bear population? Well, hunting is an easy go-to method there. And me as a hunter throughout the state of Florida, this goes for South Florida, Central Florida, and Northeast Florida, I see bears all the time. For people living in bear-free zones, I can understand that they would think there just aren't many black bears running around, but I see them regularly on all my game cameras, when I'm sitting, they'll walk right through your hunt all the time. So they'll frequent any location that has consistent food. And when you're knocking on a development, so development comes into an area that does have a bear population, and development comes through, of course you're going to have interactions. Of course, this isn't rocket science. This is common sense. And people are surprised that their habitat is limited, and therefore those boundaries just keep shrinking. Of course, there's going to be overlap there, and they have nowhere to go. I don't blame the bears by any means. They're just doing what bears do and cruising around looking for food and trying to procreate. And how can you blame them for doing what they're designed to do? And we're encroaching on their habitat. So how do we manage all of this, right? This is the big issue. You've got people on the conservation side that want more habitat, more ecosystems for them to flourish. And then you've got developers coming in and just want to develop everything, which of course affects that. And how do we juggle all this? What's the right answer? What's the right ratio? What do you guys think? Should we be doing this bear hunt? How much development is too much? How much is just the right amount? How many people need to move to the state, etc.? Okay, so back on task here. Also, some people are claiming that a recent fatality that took place recently in Collier County, which we already reported on, is also another tweak in this direction, where it's kind of a bullet point for the FWC to use to promote the bear hunt. So on May 5th of 2025, 89-year-old Robert Markle and his dog were fatally attacked by a black bear near their home in Jerome, Florida. This is in Collier County, marking the first recorded human fatality caused by a bear in the state. The FWC responded by euthanizing 3 black bears in the vicinity and collecting DNA samples for analysis. The necropsy results revealed that a 263-pound male bear contained partial remains of Markle. DNA from the same bear was found on Markle's body, inside his home, and on his dog's body, confirming its involvement in the attack. The other 2 bears did not test positive for rabies, and their involvement remains under investigation. Okay, so what do we take away from that, right? Very extremely rare incident happened down there in Collier County. This is in like the Big Cypress area of the Everglades. Extremely rare encounter. Who knows how this played out? There was obviously a dog involved. Which came first, kind of the dog or the human. I am not sure how all that played out. And through all their DNA testing, they have only found conclusive, or at least only released conclusive evidence of 1 bear being involved. So the FWC was quick to shoot 3 bears on site without any evidence to support that any of those bears had done anything. So 2 of those bears, according to current evidence being released, 2 of those bears were killed for no reason. So obviously FWC is very comfortable killing bears based on the population of bears. But for anyone to pretend that bear attacks is a justifiable reason to offer a bear hunt is just absurd. This is so rare that you're more likely to fall victim to just about anything else, and we're not justifying a hunt over it. So I can certainly see bear human interactions being at maybe an all-time high within the past couple decades, but that's not necessarily the bear's fault, right? That's development moving into their habitat. But that being said, when I'm on hunting properties, thousands and thousands of acres that aren't developed, there are tons of bears, and I see them all the time. And I do see them encroaching on the boundaries of those properties where they're starting to get into human interactions, and they are looking for, garbage cans and things like that. So, okay, back on task again. Navigating the path forward. What's the balance between wildlife conservation and development? Also, again, you could make a claim for public safety here. I don't even know that there's a public safety claim. The incidents are too rare for that to really be a strong bullet point for me. What's the effectiveness of regulated hunting versus non-lethal management strategies? So is a hunt and just decreasing or managing or capping the bear population the proper method here? Or do we educate the public on how to get bear-proof trash cans and how to keep food and attractants away from their home and how to keep their pets at bay and small children, that sort of stuff? Again, this isn't rocket science to me on any of this. And then, of course, what's the role in public opinion in wildlife management decisions? So if there was 75% opposition to this hunt in those public comments at the conservation meeting, they obviously fell on deaf ears, right? So if the huge majority, 75%, I mean, can 75% of people agree on anything at this point politically? No. So if 75% of people there are commenting against the hunt and they still pushed it through, I believe it was a 4-1 vote that day, then like, what does public opinion matter? That doesn't to those sitting on that commission. That commission doesn't care at all about public opinion. I've sat through many of those meetings and they are just buying their time. They are looking at their watches. They are barely paying attention to half the speakers. It is a flippant disregard for what anyone has to say. That's my experience with FWC Commission. Okay, I am jumping over to the FWC website. So this is from myfwc.com. I absolutely hate the naming of that. FWC commissioners voted 4-1 to approve proposed amendments to bear hunting rules for advertising in the Florida Administrative Register. Blah, blah, blah. So a little bit of background on the black bear population. It does quote some of the numbers. It has come back from just several hundred bears in the 70s to over 4,000 today. We already touched on that. Hunting was off limits until 1994, it was fair game from the 30s until 1994, and then they closed it from 1994 until 2015 when they did reopen that fall hunt we discussed. A couple other little bullet points here that they've got on this page dedicated to the black bear. So why is a bear hunt being considered now? According to the FWC site, the primary objectives of regulated hunting are to balance species population numbers with suitable habitat and to maintain a healthy population. Well, you've got to realize that if you're talking about with suitable habitat, well, their habitat has shrunk dramatically over the last 100 years that they're citing data from, right? From the 1930s until now. So you're talking about a 100-year span. And when you look at those charts of development encroaching throughout the state of Florida over that same 100-year period, I mean, of course, the overall expected population of an animal is going to go down. So I'm not sure how they're determining that today's population is appropriate for today's habitat. There's some guesswork in all of this. So according to FWC, hunting provides people with recreational and economic benefits. A hunter can use the meat, pelt, fat, and other parts of the bear that they harvest. So this is a full-on hunt. Doesn't sound like there's any sort of submission expected or involved in this. Sounds like a typical hunt to me. Furthermore, according to the site, why would the FWC consider reopening regulated black bear hunting? And it says if commissioners decide to reopen regulated bear hunting, it would provide access to the resource and manage the population. Hunting would allow the FWC to start managing population growth rates for the bear management units, or BMUs, with the largest bear subpopulations. Balancing species population growth with the suitable habitat helps to maintain a healthy population, and hunting is an important and effective tool that is used to manage wildlife populations across the world. Okay, this goes on to say it is important to acknowledge that managing bear populations does not manage human-bear conflicts. Okay, so they're touching directly there on human-bear conflicts. Now, obviously, if humans are hunting bears, that is going to put a direct human-bear contact and conflict in place in real time with the intent for humans to kill the bears. So it's not really going to prevent that. Just reducing the population alone doesn't necessarily, result in less conflict between the two species. Moving down the line, skipping around a little bit here. Can the Florida black bear population sustain a hunt? Again, I'm on the myfwc.com website. Following the most recent statewide population estimate in 2015, multiple bear subpopulations were determined to be large and healthy enough to sustain a hunt. The FWC estimates the 4 largest subpopulations have grown annually since that time, and no subpopulations have shown evidence of decline. So they're saying, according to their data, since that 2015 hunt, the bear populations have been at least stable and grown, but there has not been a dip or decline at all since the 305 bears were taken back in 2015. What is the bear population in Florida? This kind of does a breakdown, geographically of like different zones. So the best scientifically valid population estimates are from 2015. So this is a little bit old. And that's one of the things people were also opposing, is that the data isn't current. It indicates that there are approximately 4,050 bears statewide. So for each bear management unit included, there's 120 in the West Panhandle, 1,060 in the East Panhandle, 496 in the North, 30 in the Big Bend, 1,198 in the Central region, 98 in the South Central, and 1,044 in the South. And they do have some maps that you can look at that kind of show these zones. And again, preserving that would be to the critters' benefit if we weren't going to go through and put in a new toll road somewhere right through that. Furthermore, how does the FWC estimate the bear population? So this is something most of you aren't going to know. This is interesting stuff, how they collect this data. So I thought I'd share this with you here. This is according to the website. The FWC estimates the abundance of bears in each subpopulation by building hair corrals that collect tufts of hair when bears come to investigate scent, lure, and bait. Samples of bear hair contain genetic material that is analyzed to identify individual bears. Statistical analysis of the location and timing of when samples were collected reveal the abundance and density of bears in each study area. And they do have a link to a video that describes the process, so that is available as well. One thing was, people have lost faith in the FWC for a million reasons that I can think of, and a million reasons that I can't think of. And when you've lost faith in an agency like that, and you're put in a position to trust their data, right? What are you and I going to do to go out and estimate this bear population? Again, my lived experience as a hunter in different zones that all happen to be in bear zones throughout the state, I see tons of black bears. No question about it. And I don't question the density of the bear population. I do not think they are that scarce. I'm not surprised when I see one in certain zones. But what are you and I going to do to come up with this number 4,000, or any number for that matter? So at some point, we have to trust the agencies that are assigned to collecting this data, right? And so that's one of the questions that's been brought up. Do we trust the FWC's data? Do we trust anything that they're telling us? Well, overall, according to the comments at the commission hearing, no, we don't trust the FWC. And that's why people are there to oppose their decisions. So one of the questions that they have addressed, or tried to address on their website, is, have other agencies evaluated the status of Florida black bears? So according to the FWC, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and Florida Natural Areas Inventory have reviewed all information available on Florida black bears and are in agreement with the FWC that there is no need to change their current status as a game species that is commonly found throughout over half of Florida. So they're touching on that yes, this has some form of a peer review, if you will, and they're concurrent in their findings. Also, according to the site, are most Floridians against bear hunting? And this touches on a survey conducted by the FWC 1 year after the 2015 bear hunt. So that means this would have taken place in 2016, and found residents were fairly evenly divided, with 48% in support of bear hunting and 43% opposed to the bear hunt. Then it goes on to touch on, this is a little bit of spin as far as I'm concerned. And I quote, however, when people were asked if they believed the FWC was carefully monitoring the bear population and that hunting was compatible with maintaining healthy bear numbers, their support for bear hunting increased to 62% in support and 28% opposed. I'd love to hear what the line of questioning was when they asked if they believed if they were carefully monitoring and so on. That's seems pretty biased and spun to me. That's as far as I trust the FWC. And then one more thing is, where can I go to get more information about the 2015 bear hunt? They have a link here specific to the 2015 Florida black bear hunt FAQs. And so you can click on that, and that gives you a lot more breakdown of exactly what happened during that 2015 hunt, data that was collected, some of the rules that were in place, things of that nature. Talk about, survival growth rates, scientific literature, things like that. So a little more education, but again, that is coming from the FWC. So do you trust what the FWC is telling you, or do they have this filtered and spun a certain way to just try to temper any public outcry. One thing I will touch on from that page. So was it legal to take females with cubs? This is one of the topics that I mentioned earlier that was brought up at this year's meeting. Bears of either sex were allowed to be taken. However, the bear must have weighed at least 100 pounds live weight, and cubs must not be present at the time of harvest. So that doesn't mean you can't shoot a mama bear, right? Just that the cubs couldn't be present. Furthermore, female bears with cubs could have been harvested legally if the cubs were not observed at the time of harvest. So like many things in hunting, that's just kind of on the honor system. Oh yeah, I saw the mama and cubs weren't there, and all is good here. So who knows how that always goes. So what are your thoughts? I mean, are you in Florida watching this? How do you feel about the black bear hunt? Are you in a black bear zone, and do you see black bears regularly if you are in one of those zones? Or are you in a zone where you haven't seen a black bear in many, many years because you just aren't where they are? Have you ever hunted a bear? Would you hunt a black bear? Would you like hunters to come into your zone and in your area and maybe decrease the population by a little bit? How do you guys feel? Tell us in the comments. We'd like to hear from you. What is your opinion? Let's conduct our own little survey here. So anyway, the debate is still out. They, as far as I know, have to come back at the next hearing and do a final vote on this. Again, this one passed 4-1. So this isn't in stone just yet. For those of you that wanted to oppose this or support this decision, you could attend the next FWC hearing and have your 3 minutes in the public comments. I'd imagine this would be on the agenda as well. And so let your voice be heard one way or another. Do you support it? Do you oppose it? I wish the FWC would reform and put commissioners in place that actually know about wildlife and actually know about conservation, as opposed to a bunch of developers sitting on the board that know nothing about wildlife or conservation. They know about how to make money off of developing real estate. And that's all well and good. Hey, go develop and make your money doing that. Great. More power to you. I wish you all the success in the world. But as far as us having an agency with the word conservation in it, we should have some dissenting opinions against development and making decisions based on, wildlife and the outcome of such. So we'll see if that ever happens. All right. Well, I've been your host today. I've been flying solo. My co-host couldn't make it today. So I'm Brandon for the Same Old Podcast. Get out there, let your voices be heard, make a change. We'll see you on the next one.